So, you're diving into Flutter. That's awesome. It's a fantastic way to build some seriously beautiful apps. But let's be real. That road from just starting out to feeling truly confident, well, it can be pretty bumpy. Today, we're going to smooth out that road.
Does this sound familiar? I bet it does. You jump in, you're full of excitement, ready to build the next big thing, and then you hit a wall. And another one. And suddenly, things feel a lot harder than they should. But here's the secret. What if those stumbles are actually the path forward? We're going to break down the most common mistakes new Flutter devs make and show you exactly how to turn those pitfalls into power-ups. Okay, so where does all that early frustration really come from? For a lot of people, it all starts with one simple but absolutely critical misstep. It has to do with the language that makes Flutter tick. A lot of us try to just leap straight into building UIs in Flutter, trying to jump right over what feels like a language barrier. But that temptation, that rush to get to the visual stuff, leads us right into our first big mistake. And that mistake is skipping the fundamentals of Dart. Look, you can probably copy-paste your way to a simple-looking app, but without really knowing Dart, it's like trying to write a novel when you only know about 50 words. You're just fighting your own tools instead of making them work for you. So let's back up for a second. What exactly is Dart, and why is it so important to actually spend time learning it before you go all in on Flutter? Dart is this really cool language from Google, and it has a couple of superpowers. First, there's just-in-time compilation. Think of this as giving you that amazing hot reload feature, where your code changes show up instantly. Then, there's ahead-of-time compilation. This is what happens when you're ready to release your app. It gets compiled down into super fast native code for the best performance. And here's why that matters to you. Learning Dart isn't just for fun. It means you'll write cleaner, faster code. You'll actually understand how to handle things like fetching data from the internet, using async and await. And trust me on this, you will save yourself so many hours of painful debugging later on. Okay, so you've got a handle on the language. The next big temptation is to just open up your editor and start coding away. But that's kind of like a construction crew showing up to a work site with no blueprints. You might get a wall built, but you're heading straight for chaos. This brings us to our next major mistake, totally ignoring your app's architecture. When you don't have a plan, your UI code, your business logic, your data, it all gets mixed together into a giant ball of spaghetti code. It might work at first, but good luck ever trying to fix a bug or add a new feature. And here it is again, straight from a developer's experience. This kind of tangled, cluttered code is the #1 sign of a missing architecture. When everything is interconnected, trying to add one small thing can feel like you're performing surgery in the dark. It's just a nightmare. So what's the fix? You adopt a structured pattern, like MVVM or clean architecture. Think of it as that blueprint for your code. It creates these nice, clear boundaries. Your UI stays in its lane. Your business logic stays in its. This separation makes every part of your app independent, easy to test, and just so much easier to work with. All right, now we're getting to the real heart of Flutter, the brain and the bones of every single app you'll ever build. I'm talking, of course, about widgets and state. Getting this right is completely non-negotiable. And that brings us to a question that I can almost guarantee you will get in a Flutter job interview. Seriously, learn this one. What is the fundamental difference between a stateless widget and a stateful widget? It really comes down to this. A stateless widget is like a photograph. It's static, it's immutable. Think of an icon or a piece of text. A stateful widget, on the other hand, is like a whiteboard. It has a state that can change. And when you call that famous setState method, you're basically telling Flutter, hey, something on the whiteboard changed. You need to redraw it. This diagram shows that perfectly. A stateful widget has this internal state, which is basically its memory. When something happens, a user taps a button, new data comes in. That internal state changes, and that change triggers the widget to rebuild itself, updating what you see on the screen. So, knowing that state can change is step one. But as your app gets bigger and more complex, you suddenly have a new challenge. How do you manage all these different pieces of changing state across your entire application without going crazy? And that is where state management comes in. For a tiny app, set state is totally fine. But in a big app, just using set state everywhere is like having every single person in a room shouting at the same time. It's chaos. State management tools like Provider, Riverpod, or Block act like a central source of truth, a communication hub, so that widgets only update when the specific data they care about changes. Okay, you've got your language down, you've got a plan for your architecture, and you understand state. Now let's talk about the finishing touches, the professional polish that really separates the good apps from the great apps. Here are two classic tells of a junior developer. First, hard coding things like colors and font sizes all over the place. A pro puts those values in one central place using const variables. That way, if you need to change your brand's color, you change it in one line of code, not 20. Second, only building for one phone size. A pro knows to use Flutter's amazing layout widgets, like expanded and flexible, to make their app look fantastic on any screen. Speaking of layouts, here's another key concept. You've put a bunch of widgets inside a row or a column. Now what? How do you actually control where they go? These visuals make it super clear. For a row, the main axis is horizontal, from left to right. For a column, it's vertical, top to bottom. So main axis alignment controls how you space things out along that main direction, like start, center, or space evenly. And cross-axis alignment handles the alignment on the other axis. Mastering these two properties is the key to creating almost any layout you can dream up. So let's bring it all home. Here's your 4-step path to becoming a proficient, confident Flutter developer. 1. Master your Dart fundamentals. 2. Always plan your app's architecture. Build with a blueprint. 3. Get a deep understanding of widgets and state. And 4. Apply that professional polish that makes your apps truly shine. We'll end on this question. Every single developer makes mistakes. It's part of the job. The great developers are the ones who don't see them as failures, they see them as lessons. So as you continue on your journey, what's the next mistake you're going to turn into a skill?